play dead, it's safer. One of my earliest memories is of being stuffed into a cupboard and just letting it happen to me. On this occasion, it was not my parents doing the stuffing, but a child in my preschool playgroup, some nasty little sod who had not been taught to play nicely. He was being the farmer, and I was a chicken that needed putting back in the chicken coop. As he stuffed me into the cupboard, he told me I was not to get out, and so I didn't move until an adult came to get me. I have often wondered why I just agreed to do as Farmer Boy demanded, even though it was dark, cramped, and just not as fun to be in the cupboard. Why didn't I get out and stand up for myself? This question has grown to have a really big significance to it, as the more I've examined my reflexive behaviours, I've noticed a pattern. I don't rock the boat. As an adult in abusive relationships, I pretty much played the same role every time. My memory of Farmer Boy at playgroup is very hazy as I was only little, but I do wonder if I was just using my learned response as an abused kid to take my punishment and keep my head down. I've never really known what would go through my mind when I would play dead as a kid or as an adult, but it seemed like nothing at all for a change. My mind was usually a cluttered and busy place, but when I played dead, my head felt entirely empty. Perhaps this was entirely a midbrain response, with no neocortical involvement at all. Animals sometimes play dead to avoid danger, and I used to wonder if perhaps this was my animal brain, the older inner parts of the brain that predate the higher cortical functions of Homo sapiens. On the other hand, I may have learned about how some animals play dead through watching something on TV or from an educational trip to the zoo. So this may have been a tip I picked up along the way, rather than an innate reaction. It started when I was so little that I really cannot recall, but I would be very curious to know if others from similar backgrounds have ever used the play dead method in a crisis. Until quite recently, I'm talking early 30s, I would still exhibit a very similar response as an adult, clamming up when faced with a potentially confrontational situation. Psychologists call this behaviour fawning, and that basically means to act quiet and complicit, so as not to anger the abuser further. I would fawn to prevent an argument from escalating. I always hated confrontation with a passion. I wanted so much to be able to state my case in an argument, and I could with strangers, or even some colleagues. The problem occurred only with people I cared about. I think I was too scared of having an argument, not because normal, rational people would fly off the handle like my mother and father. I knew better than that, but this felt like a gut instinct, something I couldn't ignore. Once a lesson is well learned at a young and impressionable age, I believe it is very hard work to shake off. However, it is not impossible, and I've managed to change my behaviour, so I can state this with total confidence. I can tell you it absolutely is possible, but equally I can tell you it really is hard. But all true growth is bloody hard. Through working with therapists and being coached a lot, I have started to understand where this fawning behaviour of mine was coming from. I used to reason that I was just scared of confrontation. It sounded logical to be afraid of violent outbursts, considering the childhood I'd had. But it actually came down to so much more. It turns out it was about how little I really valued myself. As I now understand it, I wouldn't stand up for myself because I didn't believe I was worthy of respect, While consciously I knew that I was a hard-working human being with the same rights as everybody else, I just didn't feel that way about myself on a deeper level. So while performing this fawning behaviour, I wasn't just saying, "Don't hurt me." I was saying, "Do what you want, your needs are more important." Isn't that a shocker? If this is something that you have been doing too, then take a moment to let my realization sink in. Then ask yourself, is it the same for you? At the root of it all, have you accepted abuse because you thought you were worth less? The sad truth is that so many of us have. I now understand it is true that you attract the love that you think you deserve. It's never about what you might deserve on a karmic level, how hard you've worked or how much good you've put back into the world. It's about the vibes you put out into the world, telling anyone and everyone who you are. When you tell the world that you aren't worthy, the world responds accordingly. Does that sound a bit too woo-woo? Bear with me. There is more woo coming later, but I swear, it's all based on actual lived experience. I was once super skeptical of anything that wasn't measurable in a science lab. But over time, I've learned that there is more to our experience than the 3 dimensions we see. And there is more to the power of the mind, the subconscious especially, than I could possibly explain with mere words on a page. So let's return to our 3-dimensional Earth just for now. Finding my sense of self-worth has been, and still is, a lot of work. It is a rocky road to go down, and I have found it to unsettle many of my relationships. As I began to stand up for myself, the dynamics of all my relationships started changing, some for the better and some for the worse. This much change can be really jarring for the people around you, but if they care about you, then hopefully they will accept the changes as positive. Not all friendships will last, and that is okay in my opinion. But it seems to me that while I was still surrounded by people who liked me being non-confrontational to the point of being a doormat, I might as well still be stuck with my abusers. In some ways, it is just as unhealthy